Our speaker today has a unique life. He was a high school teacher, a military man, spent a lifetime in the high-tech field. He's a technical consultant, a lay preacher, a distinguished Toastmaster, and has experience in South Korea and organizational coaching. Please welcome William Jackie, who will tell you that all things are possible. Are you a believer? Do you believe miracles happen? Miracles happen every day. When I was a child of 6, I watched sci-fi movies and marveled at the heroes and heroines. I remember looking at the full moon and wondered if man would ever get there. Was it possible? On October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union successfully launched Sputnik 1. America was behind in the race. Control of the skies was needed to secure security from our enemies. John Kennedy became president in 1961. You might remember that. On May 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American in space, launched on the Mercury Redstone 3 in a spacecraft he named Freedom 7. 20 days later, Kennedy said in a joint session of Congress, May 25th, 1961, his goal was that the U.S. would land on the moon in the decade. What a statement! A dreamer. Really? In the 60s, we watched NASA's launching by television. On February 20th, 1962, I remember it well, John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth. On July 20th, 1969, the world watched as Neil Armstrong completed Kennedy's quest by walking on the surface of the moon. What lessons do we learn from this exercise? In the midst of wars and assassinations, we walked on the moon. Yes, this is a true miracle. Walking on the moon is a tribute to America, its ingenuity, and its leaders. But it wasn't an accident. How do miracles happen? A miracle is an event that appears impossible, something that happens that has no rational explanation. If you examine miracles in detail, you usually find a logical explanation. What are the key factors leading to a miracle? Let's look at miracles, this one as well as others that I've experienced, and learn what lessons we can from them. The first requirement on this dream was dreaming big. John Kennedy dared to imagine something very big. It changed his vision and mine into reality. America changed history. Shared vision. The next step is providing a vision. The first step of leadership is that vision, but a vision in itself is nothing. Finding and motivating others to share in that vision is a sign of a true leader. A leader shares his vision, motivates others, and provides for common group goal. Is willing to follow his dream. It takes hard work, perseverance, and commitment. It requires teamwork, leadership, and sacrifice. Something else is common to miracles most of the time. It requires patience. You have to have a long-term perspective. Nothing happens overnight. It requires patience. I want to share some miracles, some small and some not so small, that I've observed and been a part of in my lifetime. And let's again learn from them. Golf. Yes, that's me. I was about 11 years old. Need to tell you the story. When I was 11, a man who had worked for my father was moving. Before he left, he gave my father an old set of golf clubs. He thought that I might have some use of them. Well, we grew up in a mining town. Now it's a ghost town. Included in the town was a 9-hole golf course. On the plus side, it was free. On the minus side, it was dirt, and it had sand greens. But why not learn golf? Sure. Sounds easy to you, but two problems. First, the clubs were right-handed, and I was a lefty. If I was to learn, I'd have to play right-handed. There was another thing I have to tell you. I was and am a klutz. I'm a geek, not a jock. They gave me grades in PE. I would flunk. If I could golf, well, that would be a miracle indeed. My first efforts were a disaster. I came dangerously close to breaking the clubs by hitting the hard rock instead of the ball. What was worse, my friends, being right-handed, annihilated me in early games. I couldn't have that. You see, I'm Irish. I'm stubborn. How did I move forward? Well, first, I became an expert in the subject of golf. I read about it. Don't reinvent the wheel. Find out what the experts say. Second, I practiced. I got to a point I could at least hit the ball. In March 1957, Sports Illustrated came out with a 5-part series, Ben Hogan, The Fundamentals of Golf. I devoured the articles. Ben Hogan was a many-time champion. He was a converted lefty. Hey, like me. We had a common bond. I found something else, someone to emulate. He was of average build, kind of like me, but he had a powerful swing. You see, he wasn't a Nicklaus or a Snead. He was like me. Hogan studied and took notes from other professionals of his time and developed his unique approach to the game. Visualizing the swing and being able to repeat the swing are the keys to success in golf. And practice, commitment, and improvement are the other aspects. Through his lessons, I learned what a proper golf swing should look like and feel like. Honestly, I repeated the self-analysis was also a necessary ingredient. I found that his fundamentals were a guide to developing a strong, repeatable swing. His grip was structured with a lefty in mind. In addition to understanding the physiological aspects of the game, the grip, the stance, and the backswing and the downswing, the follow-through, the 5th chapter, Summary and Review, outlined the mental process of self-improvement. Ben had a never give up attitude. He told how he would practice using his yard and the yards of his neighbors. He would visualize golf green 2 yards down and practice pitching to a neighbor's yard. What I did was use woofy balls, those balls with the holes in the center that won't go very far. I would try to make a round in the yard by making 4 shots, one around each side of the house. Par was 4. I went even further. We lived on the edge of town. I built a sand green with a hole in the sagebrush south of our home. I would practice shooting balls from the front yard to the green across the street. I became a decent golfer. That picture is me shooting it from across the street to that green. That's what you see there. I became a pretty good golfer, and actually, I won a local golf tournament. Yes, me, the klutz. I call that a miracle. Maybe a small one, but for me, it's a miracle. What lessons can I learn from this? First, visualization. Now, visualization here is something like the moonshot in the sense of me visualizing myself being a good golfer, but more than that. I had to visualize the physiological aspects of the game so I could repeat that swing. And I learned it from the book. You repeat the movements and exercise continually until you get it down. I learned Ben's book that you can practice the wrong things. They're difficult. And ingrain the wrong swing. So I have to continually check on that. The second part is emulation, of course. I had a model. That model was none other than Ben Hogan himself in his book. Third, I learned something important in life. Nothing comes without hard work and sweat. Practice. But I practice, and I had to keep checking myself, which is a fourth aspect, analysis. Continually analyze your progress. Are you on track? What do you need to work on each day? Analyze, analyze, analyze. What I learned from golf, and particularly from his 5th chapter, was the mindset needed to be successful, not only in golf, but in all aspects of life. The next miracle I encountered was totally an accident. For those of you living in the 60s, 3 things engulfed the news on TV. First, we watched the ongoing launchings of the space war with NASA. Yes, we did. But secondly, we began watching the war in Vietnam each night. This was the first war covered on live TV, and it was the longest in U.S. history from 1954 to 1973. Thirdly, we saw demonstrations and assassinations. The Vietnam War was an increasingly unpopular war. Do you remember where you were when JFK was assassinated? November 22nd, 1963. I do. I always wanted to be a teacher. In 1965 and 66, I completed my degree and became a high school teacher. I taught math and science in a small school in northern Nevada, but I decided it was not my calling. In 1966, after my first year of school, U.S. troop strength in Vietnam reached 385,300. It hit its maximum in 1968 of 536,100. The military draft was in effect, and you know where you'd be going. You'd be going to Vietnam. I received a deferment going for my master's degree, but in 1968, my deferment expired. Well, the first thing that happened is I received that wonderful greeting card. Greetings, you are hereby ordered to report. My next profession was predestined, the U.S. Army. Now what? I had to make some tough choices. This wasn't in my plans. A high school friend of mine had seen 2 tours in Nam as an infantryman. He returned with PTSD, and in his 40s he passed away, as a footnote. The son of a boss of mine at my summer job told me stories of him training helicopter pilots to fly in Vietnam and seeing how many of them were killed in the fighting. I also knew where the officers would be going to lead the infantry in a war I didn't support. I could sign up for a 3rd year and choose training program that would at least slow down my inevitable trip to Nam. I could be an officer. I chose to go to quartermaster supplies. Well, I went to quartermaster school in Fort Lee, Virginia. Over 200 men were in the class. Then we awaited orders. All but 3 got orders for, you know what, Vietnam. All but 3. I was one of them. We were held over as possible instructors. 3 days later, the order came. Korea. Korea? I missed a bullet. Maybe I could make lemonade out of this lemon. Well, we arrived in Wagon, Korea, 8th Army Support Depot on July 19, 1969, and we watched Armstrong's walk on the moon the following day. Wow. Well, we have to play the hand that we're dealt. But hold on. When we reported to the quartermaster the next day, we were asked, would you like to work in computer processing, or DP? That's a dumb question. Like, yeah, we agreed. We soon found ourselves in a DP operation. DP, for those of you in the 21st century's data processing, that's computer talk, handling masses of IBM computer cards. Life is good. But hey, it got even better. There was one computer programming position on base. He managed 5 Korean programmers, and he was about to return stateside. I asked my boss at the time what it would take for me to qualify for the job. If I could write a program from scratch, based on the specs, I could have the job. Okay. I read the programming manual, learned the UNIVAC assembly language, and wrote the program. I got the job. Another footnote while in Korea was that I got a few other things in it. While in Korea, I met and married my wife. I also did quite well as a soldier. I received Soldier of the Quarter, 8th Army, and an 8th Army Commendation Medal. Not bad for a 31-month investment. When I came back, I found a career in computers and the computer business. Maybe I'm related to Forrest Gump. My life in the Army was a miracle. My next story on a miracle tells of a leader who should be emulated. I worked for a technology company coming out of the service from 1972 to 1998. I began as a programmer, then a supervisor, and then a mainframe operations. I continued to do development work on the side as well. In 1989, I transferred to a group of mainframe support personnel that provided technical support to my company's mainframe operations, which at this point was worldwide. We were like a level 2 support when local resources couldn't resolve the issues. My boss, Joe, was a very amazing man. For the most part, he was paralyzed. His hands were barely useful. He could not walk or type from a computer with his hands, but he typed with his feet. He had a motorized wheelchair and a machine that gave him air to breathe. It wasn't an oxygen tank, it was pressurized air. He had been this way since early childhood due to polio. Despite all this, he was a college graduate. He could drive a car. In fact, he was involved in the robotics and engineering of the van he drove. He was very independent. And most amazingly, he was a very effective leader. Despite all of his shortfalls, he always had a positive attitude. He was a great leader. He and his team were known across the world. If you want to be a leader, make Joe your mentor. Why do I tell this story? Because I gained the experience and the visibility in this job. It leads directly to the next success story. What can be learned from Joe and experience with Joe? What lessons do you get? Attitude is everything. And a positive attitude gets you a long ways. Joe was always positive. He made it a habit to learn about and motivate everyone on his team. He gave public compliments to each member whenever they did good work. On the other hand, Joe knew his limitations, but he took them into account in everything he did. He planned ahead. Remember the golf analysis? Each one of his team could help him in the areas where he may need help. But Joe was a good judge of character as well. He attracted, recruited, and kept the best people possible in the job. Like Kennedy in the moonwalk, he developed a shared vision of the goals of his team. Joe may not have had all of the answers, but his team did. He let them participate in the decisions and assignments of his members. In 1991, while I was on Joe's team, I was asked to be a consultant in a joint venture company called Systems Technology Management, or STM. It was formed with our company and Lucky Gold Star of South Korea. I would be performing the sort of support I was currently doing in the States, but also involved in systems development, which I was very good at. It began as a 2-year assignment. I was asked because Joe's team had a company-wide reputation, and in addition, I had spent time in South Korea in the military. I married a Korean in 1970, and my knowledge of the Korean culture made me an invaluable asset to my company. I had to get permission from Joe. Well, Joe, being the kind of person he was, understanding the opportunity not only for me but also for the company, and my unique qualifications, agreed. My 2 years in this position was very demanding but also very rewarding. At the end of 2 years, I was asked to extend my assignment another year. I was the only person from our company at STM given this opportunity except the vice president of the joint venture himself. My assignment was a strong success. What observations would I make about this assignment? Consulting. Reviewing the skill set of a consultant, I see the following. First of all, consultants have to have knowledge of the subject. I was qualified in that respect and super qualified actually because of my background with Joe and my past developmental experience. In addition, a consultant needs people skills. You have to be able to adjust to the conversation, the current situation. I dealt with management of the organization. I've been able to empathize and to have people skills. You know, it's said that in consulting with the Japanese is difficult. Well, let me tell you this. With Koreans, it's even more difficult. My background, knowing Korea, its culture, its customs, its thinking, gave me an indispensable advantage. I was uniquely qualified. And lastly, I had presentation skills. In previous position, I presented routinely to boardroom presentations of other companies as well as internally to my own upper management. Now the next skill I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have to do some review. Let's start by reviewing some of the things that I went through from one event to another. Miracles happen only when there's passion and commitment and hard work. What are your passions? You have to start with a passion to have a miracle. Everyone is given gifts. What are yours? You have to have something to develop. Also notice in the story that we've gone through that there are prerequisite of skills. Some skills are built one upon the other. And the last one is really the skill, the opportunity. It has to be present and you need to be aware of it. Lastly, opportunity. Always take advantage of opportunities. You miss them, they're gone forever. Let's follow a progression. I would ask you before we go forward, you need to be aware of opportunities that you see in your daily life. I'm going to cover what to me is the most amazing miracle of my life, and I was personally a part of it. I ask you that there is something else that's present that I hope you pick up as we go through it. Let's begin. My greatest miracle. Miracles require passion. Early on, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but teachers come in various flavors, as we found out. I've had experience as a consultant. I've had my experience as an analyst. And teaching can take many forms. Many of you in the audience are teachers. This passion is known to you. Helping people is a noble goal. It also requires a spiritual gift. My second passion took almost 50 years to uncover. It came after my retirement, and that's the passion we're going to get into. Some of these opportunities are by chance, and others you need to find for yourself. I would ask you as I go through here to raise your hands when I say by chance. To understand my greatest miracle, you need to look at the timeline of my life and take a look at opportunities. Let's start in 1956. Now that's not a big deal. I took up golf, but I learned several things from it. I found my first mentor. I learned how to visualize. I learned the importance of practice and hard work. And I developed an analytical mind, which I used throughout my life. In 1965, I was a high school teacher. This was my plan, not by chance. Going forward, in 1970, by chance, I was drafted and by chance sent to Korea via the Army for 26 months. I was drafted. This event changed my life forever. By chance, I found my wife and my career by this chance event. I learned about computers and different cultures, the Korean culture, and found my life's work in information technology. In my profession, by chance, in the 1980s, I learned how to make presentations of leadership and how to be a leader. By chance, I had the opportunity, because of Joe and the experience I had with him, to experience Korea firsthand. And I learned from a very inspired leader the value of leadership. In 1991, by chance, I went to Korea and began a consulting project which lasted really 5.5 years in this role. I must point out, I am not a linguist. I've tried Spanish in high school, German in college, and Korean in Korea. I failed every time. I can clearly tell you this is not one of my spiritual gifts. While in Korea, I had to appreciate other cultures, and I learned how to do business with Asian cultures through years of experience in both the military and Korean workspace. In this backdrop, I tell you that my final story on miracle began in New Mexico and ended in Las Vegas. My greatest miracle. In 1996, 2 years before I retired, I joined Toastmasters International, an organization designed to develop people's communication and leadership skills. In 1998, I retired from my lifetime work, and by chance, I moved to New Mexico and became a division governor in Toastmasters. By chance. A worldwide organization whose goal is to develop communication and leadership skills. That while I was there, by chance, I met a group that was involved in assisting clubs with membership and motivation. This is a form of consultancy called coaching. I saw the value of this consulting project. I considered my career and experience and joined the group. They call themselves FAST, Facilitation and Support Team. Coaching became a passion of mine. The story is about coaching. I read extensively on the subject, and at least from an intellectual perspective, I became a self-taught expert, at least by the book, just like I did in golf. The team did very good things. I did some coaching and found I was pretty good at it. June 2000, my passion and I moved to Las Vegas, and the story continues here in Las Vegas. But it continues. As I tell this story, I want to tell you that this is more like a play. I was merely an actor in a three-part play. What happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas, it goes to the entire world. The penultimate teacher within me begged me to bring club coaching to District 33 Toastmasters in Las Vegas. It could help people and could help Toastmaster clubs. There's an old Taoist saying, the journey is the reward. Let's go to Act 1 of this story. Act 1, 2000 through 2002. I presented the idea to division governors in Las Vegas. I received really a cold and tepid reception, but again, I'm Irish. I presented my idea to the district governor. By chance, once again, she connected me with an MBA in Ventura, California, specializing in public relations, and a medical doctor in Palmdale, California, who is a worldwide expert on biofeedback. What a combination. By chance, they loved my idea, and we became a team. Wow, what people. I decided to develop and deliver a club coach training program, which would be my Distinguished Toastmaster project. You needed to do a leadership project. The project would be overseen by a committee of Toastmasters. Well, that's easy. I chose the committee, my MBA and MD friends. Of course. We developed FAST 2, if you wish, the Las Vegas version of FAST. And we developed it in a barn that was given by our MD friend, and we developed a program and training, and we taught some 10 coaches in the Spring District Conference in 2003. We created the first club coach organization in TI, and by chance, I was first club coach and led our district to the club coaching program. Act 2, 2003. Again, by chance, and this blows my mind, that same year, 2003, as we developed our club coach program and rolled it out in District 33, Toastmasters International, the worldwide organization, rolled out the worldwide club coach program. Well, by chance, our team had developed the only club coach training program in the world for Toastmasters, an organization in existence anywhere in the world. We had, however, another huge obstacle to overcome. Our FAST 2 didn't work because club coach structure at world headquarters varied considerably from the district-wide structure that we had in place. More work lay ahead. We developed and came out with Club Coach Program version 2, which met the Toastmasters International requirements. And we simply called it the Club Coach Program, and we called the book a playbook. I got my club coach, the very first club coach designation in the world was mine, and we had the book called the playbook. Think football. It's like a coach, but it coaches teams, not individuals. We were ready. Our feet were on the street. Oh, by the way, I also got my distinguished Toastmaster. Act 3 of this play, The World. By chance, in the spring of 2004, the president of TI, Ted Cochran, from Dublin, Ireland, visited our regional conference in Bakersfield, California, to train district officers throughout the region. By chance, my MBA friend knew Ted. By chance, we had dinner that night before the conference with the president, and we presented him with my leadership project and a copy of the team's playbook. By chance, at the regional training, Ted directed regional leaders across TI to incorporate the playbook. As a result, we were asked by district governors across the country to train their personnel and access the playbook. My team trained over 40 current and future leaders throughout Region 2 in California and Arizona, and also Region 1, Region 3. I know personally of several Toastmasters who were motivated to get into district leadership through the playbook, and the many clubs that benefited from the program. As a footnote, I need to say that I have coached 3 TI clubs to President's Distinguished. As I look back at this, it is clear that none of this by chance was by chance, but by divine providence. We went viral. The world found out about the playbook. I'm not telling you this story to brag about myself. I'm telling you this story to have you understand that if you have a passion, you believe in it, you ask God to help, and you have the perspiration to go and do the job, miracles can happen. All things are possible. Miracles do happen. But the events were not accident. God arranged my experiences as preparation for what came later. God had the right people at the right time. Look at the history. I found a spiritual gift after retirement I never knew I had. I was very good as a club coach and as a trainer. I trained people who now are coaches by profession. I coached 3 clubs to President's Distinguished, as I said before. Divine providence, yes. I am reminded of Christ feeding the multitude in Matthew 14, Mark 6, or Luke 9. Christ provides the food, but we distribute it. Quoting an old friend of mine, Pastor Murray from Arkansas, a pastor I've watched for 40 years. The way he says it, you do the sweat, God provides the brick and the mortar. The very people needed to achieve my personal goal along the way in New Mexico, California, and Nevada were the brick. The mortar was the opportunities that I was given on the journey. God was the director of this play. I was only an actor. Summary. Miracles happen when you have a passion, do the sweat, and believe in God and in yourself. So I ask you, are you a believer? I am. Yes, all things are possible. Find your passion, ask God to help you, and do the sweat. But most importantly, believe.